Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggelhaus. And in this video, we got to talk about buying comic books once again. That is right. We are talking about buying comic books once again, similar to the video I put out yesterday, but this time we're doing it a little bit different. And that's because we got to talk about this idea of buying the bottom. And more specifically, how you guys and me are not going to be able to do it. But before I get into the video, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, doing those things, I would appreciate it. But let us get into this video here today. And this is a video that I kind of wanted to do as sort of a continuation from our discussion yesterday. Now, of course, I put out that video where I was talking about, how I felt like now is a really good time to look for great deals on comic books. I still very much feel that way. I think that we're going to enter a period for at least the next, few months where there's going to be great deals on the table. But one of the, feedback I got on the video, it was a very, very positive conversation overall. We're having a good, community engagement. But one of the things that, people had mentioned is, they specifically had said, you don't want to catch a falling knife, right? Everyone throws that out. That's the analogy that people use when it comes to crypto crashing or, stock markets crashing or housing, collapses and things like that. And of course, that's true. You don't want to catch a falling knife. You want to wait until it hits the floor, right? But here's the problem with that. Nobody knows when the floor is coming. Nobody can actually see the floor, right? The analogy sort of breaks down because we're not standing in a kitchen. We're not watching a knife hitting the ground, falling down where we can see, the minty green tiles in my 1950s house, which, I'm just totally making up for this analogy, but we don't get to actually see where the floor is. The floor could be 10,000 feet down from where we are today. The floor could be, frankly, we could already be at the floor. The knife could actually be already laying on the tiling, and all we have to do is scoop it up. And that's really the thing that I have an issue with. And specifically where I'm kind of going with this all is that, remember, only one person gets to buy the bottom. That's one of the things that we have to remember, is that only one person gets to buy the record low price of a comic book before it starts to go up again, or at least the, ultimate corrected price of the comic book before it starts to go up again. And the chances that it's going to be you or me that actually ends up doing that is probably, 1 in a million. So you're saying there's a chance. Well, no, I am not saying there is a chance. I am not saying there's a chance. That's the point. The point is that it's not really a reliable strategy, in my opinion, to bank on this idea that at some point, a couple months time, the entire market is going to crash, including the comic book market. And that will be the time when I am able to find that book I want and be able to buy that book I want. The reality is, nobody knows when the bottom is coming. Nobody knows where the market is going. So you're really just best off, dollar cost averaging, which of course I'm sure you guys know the idea of dollar cost averaging, into the key books that you want. When you come across those deals, as the weeks go by, if you happen to have capital on the sideline, and you see the book you want, you use all the metrics you can to figure out if it's a good purchase at the time. You think about the comps, you've watched Swaggelhaus's videos. He says, okay, think about, is it a first appearance of the character? Or what year did it come out? I'm going to compare it to other characters. Okay, I want to buy a CGC 9.8 of Nova. Okay, what are the other characters? Star-Lord, Starhawk, okay, and Eternals came out the same year. Okay, that book sold for this. Okay, it had this much correction. Okay, blah, 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 blah. And you make the best decision you can, thinking about the information you have at the time right there in front of you. And then guess what? Maybe the book ends up still going down, right? It still goes down and it feels bad and it sucks. But the reality is that, remember, we're in this for the long haul. At least presumably we're in this for the long haul. At least from my perspective, I'm in it for the long haul. And if you're someone out there who, has been collecting these comic books and, you're a passionate collector, but you do sort of see these as assets from time to time. If you're in it for the long haul too, ultimately, we're all going to be okay, right? We're all going to be okay. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, all these comic books that we bought, at the top or maybe not at the bottom, I still firmly believe that if there is intrinsic value to the comic book, if you focused on the good blue chip stuff, if you focused on the keys that were important to you, if you focused on keys and good fundamentals of books that you feel like you made good purchases on, you are going to be okay overall. But again, going back to that point about how only one person gets to buy the bottom, I want to show you guys, some examples and some books and talk about some market stuff that, shows exactly how difficult it is to predict the bottom. I mean, we got to talk about this book right here. Of course, you guys know Fantastic Four, #1 first appearance of all the Fantastic Four characters, and most importantly, Mole Man. But when we go down here, this is a book that is going insane right now. And I want to take a look here just at like this 1.8 grade. We had 2 sales, just a couple of days ago, right? Like everything is going crazy in the economy, everything's going down, but we have 2 record high sales back to back for this book at this grade on May 10th for $18,500. The fair market value, I think, has already been updated, but it was less than that at the time. And look at this, where this book was. So, in August of 2021, there was a sale for $12,600. And then there was another sale for $11,800 just after that. So you could have hypothetically been in a situation where you were like, okay, this book previously had sold for $13,200, and you were like, okay, $11,800, like, is that the bottom? And you might have said to yourself, no, we're not at the bottom. The book, the economy is still uncertain. We're starting to go down. Things are starting to cool down. Let me wait for the bottom to come. And then here we are, in the middle of this kind of, crisis that's going on right now. And we see 2 sales for $18,000. Now, I realize that we had Multiverse of Madness, and effectively, I won't go into spoilers, but, there might have been a reason why, one of these books are selling for this crazy price right here. But the thing is like, if you had the mentality about, that being the bottom, you would have missed it, right? So like this idea of catching the knife, it would have been a good idea to scoop it up right when it hit the ground at that point. Now, again, nothing is to say that the bottom won't still come. Maybe this is a $18,000 price, and there's going to be a massive drop again. We're going to go all the way back down to 2019 prices for $6,000. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but there's no telling. And so it's really hard to say. Now, here's another book that I want to look at with X-Men #1 right now, because this is another book that's been correcting pretty hard from its previous high. So I take a look here at the 2.0, and I think this is really interesting, right? Where we saw a record high of 11,000, and then, we've started to see a little bit of a decline all the way down to $9,000 for a sale right here. And I, go over here to one of the Facebook groups, and what do I see? Here's a 2.0 X-Men I can have right now for $9,350. Not too bad of a price. There's only 11 likes on this. There's not even a emoji with the O face on it, like, oh my God, what a great deal. But where I'm going with this is that, again, are we at the bottom for X-Men #1? We don't know. We don't know if this is the bottom out. Is that $9,300 price point a good deal? I mean, maybe it's a good deal relative to some of the other sales that have been going on. I mean, if the record high or the record low price in this last calendar year was $9,000, I mean, maybe that person on Facebook is willing to take $9,000, cash for their book right there because, they just need to quickly make a sale. And here's the thing. We don't know if that is a good deal currently on the table. We don't know if this is the bottom. Maybe in 6 months' time, X-Men #1 at that grade is going to be selling for $7,000. I mean, who really knows? But what we can say is we can take, that book, and we can think about, okay, 1963 book. It's kind of like an FF1. It's got these many first appearances. Okay, FF1 selling at, $18,000 at that grade. Granted, it's a 1961 book. Okay, let me handicap it a little bit. Let me look at the census. Okay, 4,000 books on the census for X-Men 1, 2,000 books on the census for, Fantastic Four, or like actually 2,800 or whatever the case may be. Let me do the math. I can't do the math in my head. But, proportionally valued, it should be around such and such and such. And then we can make the decision if we feel like, a $9,000 purchase for that book is a good buy overall. I don't know. I'm not saying that it is, but what I'm saying is that it's really hard for us to predict the bottom and what is going to happen and when is the right time to buy some of these comic books and some of these deals. But to nail this point home, I do want to show you guys a few things that I thought was really interesting. We're talking about markets, we're talking about everything going on in the economy right now. And so last night I decided to put out a poll on the YouTube channel, and the poll was this, and I thought the results were really interesting, and I felt like maybe they would be worth having a conversation about. Let me actually just do a quick refresh here in case a couple more votes came in. So, okay, we have 290 votes on this question right here, which I asked, question, say you find yourself in an emergency financial situation and need money fast. Which asset are you liquefying first? And surprisingly, surprisingly, 36% of you guys said that you're going to be selling your comic books first. 36% said comic books, stocks 21%, crypto, NFTs 21%, precious metals like gold and jewelry and watches only 8%. So, the inflationary hedge of gold and things like that, people really believe in that. And then other 14%, other, who knows what that could be, real estate, maybe you collect, I don't know, rare guitars, or you're a motorcycle collector or something like that. But it was really interesting to me to see that 36% of people actually said that they would sell their comic books. Now, where am I going with this? Swaggle why are we talking about this? Couple things. Number one, this poll, take it with a grain of salt, could be biased because maybe everyone who's watching this YouTube right now has most of their money in their comic books. And if they actually needed to come into money, they would be selling their comic books because that's where they have a lot of store of value. So that could be one of the factors. But on top of that, it is interesting to think about this in terms of, how we as collectors view comic books and perhaps their liquidity in the market, right? Maybe some of the reasons why people would think to sell their comic books first is because maybe they view them as an asset that is going to be the quickest way for them to get cash in hand. And to that point, where I'm going with this, back to the original conversation of, us thinking about if now is a good time to buy comic books, I think this sentiment shares that idea right there, where, again, there's a lot of people, and, I hope all you guys are doing well out there. I hope everyone is doing okay in this market, but there's a lot of people who are unfortunately going to run into some issues where they might need to get some cash. And there are going to be some books that come onto sale for that reason. And comic books, for a lot of people, as much as we love these things and we have an emotional attachment to them, they're probably one of the first things that people are willing to let go because they're the least necessary. Or maybe people don't have as much funds in it because, they have more of their retirement portfolio in stocks, which is a more kind of, usual thing to be investing in. So this is something I think is really important to think about, and why, again, I think that it is going to be a good opportunity to buy comic books. Now, again, I am not a financial expert. This is not financial advice. Don't listen to me. I unironically like the Porcupine as a villain character in Marvel. So let us talk about Iron Man #1. And one of the things I wanted to point out about this book is, again, I always reference this book as being the sort of Dow Jones, the index fund of the comic book collecting market, because I think of this book as something that doesn't have, massive spec value. It's a blue chip kind of key, or maybe, I don't know, if maybe you don't want to call it a blue chip key, but it's a great key book with a great cover that collectors love to own. And this is one of those books where there's a high enough census to where you can get good numbers of it. And it's at a value range that I feel like a lot of collectors can afford, which is why I think it's a good book to always look at the state of the market. And one of the things I wanted to show specifically with this book is, let's just focus in on the 7.0 grade, is that the last time we kind of had this crazy market crash, right? It was back in, let's call it March of 2020, right? March of 2020. So here we are in January of 2020. This book is $606. We go forward a month, the book is $599. We go forward a month, we get to March and basically April, and it drops down to $551. So there is the dip, right? When we saw record crash prices for stocks and crypto and all those things at the beginning of 2020 in around April, March, this comic book, which I view as sort of the Dow Jones again, had a little bit of a pullback, a little bit of a correction. But one of the things I want to show you guys is that it didn't take long for comic books to recover from that. And that is actually very true of almost every correction that you see here in the comic book collecting space. Again, in 2008, when we had the housing market crash, this was a $286 book. Later on, it would dip down to $262. So not too big a difference overall, even after the housing market crash. And then it would only take a couple years back in 2011 when this would recover to $310. So Swaggle, where are you going with this? Why are you talking about this book right here? What I'm saying overall, again, to the point of this video, is that, again, we don't know where the bottom is. Nothing can indicate how long this crisis is going to go for. Again, I'm not saying that comic books are the answer to any of this, but what I am saying is that even in this bearish cycle where comic books come up for sale, I think that a lot of the blue chip keys are going to be able to hold at least some of their value. So if you do see, a pretty good deal on a book overall, and it's something you've wanted, and it's something you believe in and you have the means to get it. Of course, only if you have the means. This is comic books, guys. Like, this is not life or death. If you have the means to get it, I think you should feel confident in being able to make that purchase. And you have to be willing to accept that the comic might still go down, right? Of course it's going to happen. It's going to happen to all of us, right? The instant you hit buy it now on a book where you're like, I've done all my research, I'm going to hit buy it now, I feel good about this. Of course, you're going to get an email notification. Oh, they just listed a new Iron Man #1 for, $100 less. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. Happens to all of us. But again, we're all in this for the long haul, right? We're all in this for the long haul. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to get through this. We're going to recover. We're going to bounce back. And you're going to have a lot of great books in your collection as a result of it. Remember, only one person gets to buy the bottom. It's probably not going to be you or me. So if you find a good deal out there for the comic book that you want in your grail, you have the means to get it, by all means, pull the trigger. Anyways, that's all I got. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.